So let's start with Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson is getting traded from the Ravens this upcoming offseason. He'll be playing 2023 and beyond with the New York Jets. I think Lamar Jackson will be a Jet next year. I think this is the perfect trade for all parties involved. Look, you look at the Jets, they are desperate to have a great quarterback. You trade for Lamar Jackson, he is easily the most talented quarterback in Jets history. So I don't think that will stop the Jets from paying a high price in terms of draft picks. I would presume 3 first-round picks would get the job done for Lamar Jackson. I think the Jets would be willing to pay that. It's going to be a very high salary. We just talked the whole last hour. Lamar Jackson reported is looking for a fully guaranteed deal in the neighborhood of Deshaun Watson's $230 million fully guaranteed contract. Now, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable giving him all that guaranteed money. I think the Jets would, though. I think the Jets absolutely would pay that kind of contract to get Lamar to town. So I think if you're the Ravens, you get the draft capital, you get the return you're looking for. I think if you're the Jets, you would get the most talented quarterback you'd ever had in your franchise history. And if you're Lamar, you get the contract I think you want, but also, too, you have a really good team around you. Right, you have a young, up-and-coming kind of nucleus on the offense where you have Garrett Wilson, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Breece Hall, really good running back before he got hurt. He arguably could have been Rookie of the Year. You have Elijah Moore, who I like. You have some young skill talent kind of on the outside. You have a really good defense carrying over, coming back after a really good year last year. Like, the Jets are in a really good spot where if Lamar goes to the Jets next year, they're not on the same tier to me as the Chiefs, as the Bengals, as the Bills. I'd say right below that second tier, but definitely a playoff team. I think a dangerous team come playoff time next year. So I think when it's all said and done, my official prediction for Lamar Jackson next year, the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers will not be a member of the Packers next year. He'll be playing football for the Dolphins. I think he'll be in Miami. Now, look, let's just remember this, right? I think when it comes to a trade, even though Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a no-trade clause, he basically controls where he wants to go because if the Packers saying, we're going to trade you to, I don't know, let's say the Titans, and Rodgers says, I don't want to go there, you get threatened retirement, and you still can kind of have a lot of control. We've seen a lot of big-time quarterbacks, big-time athletes in any sport. Even if you don't have a no-trade clause, you still have a lot of control of where you want to go. The Packers, at least through reports, have made it clear they are not going to trade Aaron Rodgers within the NFC. So, okay, you look at the AFC. And if you're Aaron Rodgers, again, with control of where you can go, where else would you rather be than Miami? Like, honestly, in the AFC, where else would you rather be than Miami? 2 bona fide stud receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You have a good coach in Mike McDaniel, who I think would work with you, not against you. There's been some reports that Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers have not been on the same page when it comes to play calling and game planning. Mike McDaniel, I think one of his strengths is calling an offense and calling a game that caters to what his quarterback does well. So I think his relationship and Aaron Rodgers' relationship would work hand-in-hand, go really well. And you were talking about being an instant Super Bowl contender. The AFC is a lot harder than the NFC. You pair Aaron Rodgers with those 2 wide receivers, we're talking about instant Super Bowl contender. And if you're Miami, you can't roll into 2023 with Tua as your plan A. You can't, I'm sorry. With the concussions last year, with him being maybe 1 hit away from his career ending, you can't, in a Super Bowl or bust, when you trade for Tyreek Hill, you kind of make that your window. You can't go into next year with a question at quarterback. I like Tua. It's a shame and it's sad what happened. But the guy suffered, let's call it 3 concussions last year. It's in 1 year. You can't count on him being out there. So with that said, I think if you're Miami, you have to be a player here this offseason. You got to make a move to try to get some sort of stability at quarterback. Even though it's a short-term move, right, 2 or 3 years with Aaron Rodgers, I think it's worth a swing and they go for it. So I think the Dolphins make a big swing. I think they land Aaron Rodgers. He'll be playing in South Beach with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle next year. So Lamar Jackson from the Ravens to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers from the Packers to the Dolphins. 2 more quarterbacks here. Derek Carr, Jimmy G. Let's start with Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr will be playing his football next year in Tampa, replacing Tom Brady with the Buccaneers. Look, if you're the Buccaneers, you shouldn't tear it down. This is still, to me, a roster that can compete for a playoff spot, a roster that still can win the NFC South next year. I think the best quarterback to still get you to the playoffs would be Derek Carr. Look, you have Chris Godwin, you have Mike Evans, you still have a defense that has some talent on it. I know they're starting to get up there in age, but I don't think they've aged out just yet where you can kind of start to wave the white flag and start to tear down this roster. I think you still have 2 or 3 years left of competing, of trying to, make the playoffs. And again, in the NFC, you look around, it's the Eagles right now. Okay, absolutely. They are the team to beat. The 49ers, super talented roster. So you have the Eagles and the 49ers in, let's say, the top tier in the NFC. Other than that, who else is scaring you? I think the Packers are moving on from Aaron Rodgers. What is Jordan Love? I don't know. The Vikings, paper tigers. Cowboys, kind of in that same category. Commanders can't get a quarterback. Giants overachieved last year. Will they repeat that? I don't know. Honestly, if we're going to next year, I would say the third best team is the Lions right now in that conference. Which goes to show you it's wide open. So if you're the Buccaneers, you got to capitalize right now on this vacuum of great teams. Capitalize right now on an NFC South that's in flux with all three other teams in your division really not having any sort of direction with the Panthers, Falcons, Saints. Go get Derek Carr. Go give him the $35 million a year that he wants. Run it back. And I think make a playoff run next year. And I think you will be a playoff team with Derek Carr as your quarterback. So I think the Buccaneers do run it back, do try to capitalize on this core group of players that they have. And I think they do sign Derek Carr and win the NFC South next year. And finally, Jimmy Garoppolo. He'll be playing his football next year with the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, you look at the Raiders, they're stuck. And when you're stuck, I think sometimes you go to a place of familiarity. And you go back to New England with Jimmy G and Josh McDaniels. I think when you're in a tough spot like this, the one area you're going to revert back to is familiarity. I think they're going to go sign Jimmy G. Because when you cut Derek Carr, you don't really have many options for an upgrade. I think Derek Carr is solid. 10, 11, 12 when it comes to ranking quarterbacks in the NFL. But with that said, there's not many upgrades, though. Like Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, yes. Obvious upgrades over Derek Carr without a doubt. But if you're Lamar Jackson, do you want to go to the Raiders? I would say no. If you're Aaron Rodgers, would you want to go to the Raiders? I don't think so. I don't trust Josh McDaniels as a head coach. I think he's awful. Yes, you have Devontae Adams, great receiver. We'll see about Darren Waller. Can he stay healthy? Will he remain in Las Vegas? Josh Jacobs, they have a decision to make him there about his future. Will they franchise tag him or not? The defense is horrible. The offensive line is not very good. So it's I don't think the two obvious upgrades over Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson will want to play in Vegas. So then what do you do? If you can't get Rodgers, you can't get Lamar, what do you do if you're the Raiders? You're picking there at number 9. I don't think that you'll be sitting there, or number 7, I should say, excuse me. You're picking there at number 7. I mean, you draft a quarterback like Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. Then what are you saying to the rest of your team? You went this time last year, you went all in by acquiring Devontae Adams, saying, we're kind of putting our chips in the middle here. We're going to be a playoff team and contend right now. And 1 year later, you're going to draft a developmental quarterback? If you're Devontae Adams, why would you want to stay in Las Vegas? So I think right now you kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where if you draft a quarterback, I think you're sending the wrong message and that you're kind of right now rebuilding more than kind of going for it. There's not many upgrades outside of Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. I think Josh McDaniels is going to revert back to some familiarity. Still try to compete in 2023. And the way you do that is by signing a guy you've worked with before, had success with, and that is Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo will go to the Raiders. We'll be playing there in 2023. So Jimmy G to the Raiders, Derek Carr to the Buccaneers, Aaron Rodgers to the Dolphins, and Lamar Jackson to the Jets.